it's not all Adobe. It's, you know, a different kind of architecture. It's got a different kind of feel to it. So I'm proud that Santa Fe continues to innovate.
I mean, all I'm really trying to say is things are changing quite dramatically, and it's quite difficult to keep your head clear about what is really distinctive and special about places. But then there are inspirational leaders who are people who tell a story of an unfolding place where you want to be a maker, shaper, co-creator of that story, and you don't care about some of the small problems along the way. So it's not about money only. It's about changing the way we think. Obviously, one needs to be quite intelligent about it in one way or another. It's really a step-by-step process, and I believe it's in our hands to do these transformations, because making great cities and places is not a thing like in a casino, and it's not an accident. It's about the choices we make.
On behalf of the City of Santa Fe, UNESCO's only creative city in the United States, we are very happy to welcome you here to the first International Conference on Creative Tourism, a global conversation. The goals of this conference are two. First, from the UNESCO Creative Cities perspective, we want to again come together to explore the possibilities of using creative tourism and an international face-to-face format to further define what we can accomplish together as an international network. We are here to showcase the very special attributes of Santa Fe, a city which has been culturally significant for its creativity for over 400 years. And it's our vision that by having more people come here from around the United States and around the world, we can build a stronger economy for the citizens of Santa Fe.
Oh, I mean, I think if there are certain destinations in the United States that are soulful, that actually have a soul or a spirit, and I think Santa Fe is one of those. Maybe, you know, New Orleans French Quarter or Boston's Beacon Hill or other examples of that come to mind. So I think it's that. I mean, there's a soulfulness here, but if you had to put your finger on it, it's sort of that interesting confluence of art, you know, beautiful outdoors and scenery, and just kind of maybe a peacefulness.
You know, I've frankly been stunned at the aspirations of this conference. It's very clear that this is a group of people that have a vision of what they want their city to be in regard to tourism and are prepared to do something about it. What I've come away with is a kind of optimism about the future of tourism in this specific community and region, and the willingness of people, volunteers as well as employees, to enunciate a vision of the future and make it stick.
This one was special for one reason. It's because not only the experience was good on the theoretical base, the knowledge we were able to get, but from the experience
You're on.
Good morning. This is Rebecca Wurzberger. I'm Mayor Pro Tem of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and moderator for today's webinar, Creative Tourism, Continuing the Global Conversation. Hopefully, those of you who have joined us as an audience have had a chance to see our earlier video clip from the 2008 conference. If you haven't, it will be shown again at the end of our webinar. We'll be starting now with a brief discussion of the background of the conference, but I want to start by saying that we're really excited about the opportunity of reconnecting with participants from that conference in 2008, as well as welcoming new colleagues who are engaged in creative tourism around the world. We're expecting over 100 participants in this webinar. To begin, I want to especially welcome our presenters, Caroline and Greg from Barcelona today, and also Sabrina and Brent from Santa Fe. Since we co-sponsored the UNESCO International Conference on Creative Tourism in 2008, Santa Fe has been actively engaged in developing a creative tourism infrastructure that effectively links artists with tourists. Clearly, the forecast made at the conference that creative tourism would emerge as a viable economic development tool for cities, states, and countries internationally has come to fruition. For example, in 2011, Bank Travel Management identified experiential travel, not calling it creative tourism, but identified experiential travel as one of the top travel trends that was needed to be monitored. Earlier this week, the Travel Daily News reported that Thailand's CT campaign, Discover the Other You, has generated already over 24 million online visitors. From our research in Santa Fe since the first conversation we had in 2008, we have identified a wide range of creative tourism experiences being offered worldwide, ranging from the first offering, bone carving in New Zealand, that Greg may talk about, to bug hunting in England, to belly dancing in Bali, to cooking in Umbria, to playing Andean music in Peru. And the list goes on, as will be shown throughout our webinar by the slides of offerings around the world. If you were to go on Google today or yesterday or tomorrow, you'll find new creative tourism offerings being offered. As we stated in our invitation to you, the webinar today is designed to continue the conversation of the 2008 International Conference. Participants included our speakers and attendees from that conference, emerging providers of creative tourism experiences, and municipal leaders in tourism and economic development from all over the world. Specifically, our goal for this webinar is to identify best practices in creative tourism that are enhancing local economies. We're going to be doing this now by moving more to a conversationalist mode on discussing ideas on how creative tourism has evolved in two cities represented at the 2008 conference, that being Barcelona and also Santa Fe. And we'll be hearing the unique viewpoint of the co-creator of the term creative tourism, Greg Richards. Our format for the webinar will be brief conversations with the people that I've identified. Questions have been received from those of you who signed up for the webinar, and these are going to be addressed through the individual conversations and in both, and also in our closing question and answer period. So let's get started. Greg, let's pick up to begin with on one of the questions that was submitted from, I believe it was Egypt, and that was, what is creative tourism and how did it get started?
Hi, Rebecca. Yeah, what I wanted to talk about in general was what creative tourism is and how the concept developed. So starting with the definition that Crispin Raymond and I came up with more than a decade ago seems like a good starting point. The definition that we created then, and which I think is still valid, is that creative tourism offers visitors the opportunity to develop their creative potential through active participation in learning experiences which are characteristic of the holiday destination where they are undertaken. Now, for me, the kind of core parts of the definition are this idea of active participation and the fact that it involves both the tourist and the supplier or the host community in the destination. And it's particularly this kind of interaction which I think is absolutely vital in developing creative tourism. The concept really came as a result of our research on cultural tourism. And over a couple of decades of looking at the cultural tourism market, what we've seen is that cultural tourism has become increasingly a mass market. And in fact, I'm looking at the roof of a Gaudi building in Barcelona at the moment out the window. I won't show you at the moment because the webcam is connected to the computer. I don't dare turn it around to give the view. But it really is like a honeypot with ants crawling all over it. And this is really the face of a lot of cultural tourism today, is that people turn up and visit museums and monuments, they take pictures, and they go away again without being changed by the experience. So we're seeing also a replication of these kind of mass tourism experiences across the world. And I think there's a certain amount of disillusionment among a certain sector of cultural tourists about the type of experiences that they're being offered by the tourism industry. And they are looking for much more involved, more engaging, more active forms of consuming culture. They're looking for individual experiences which are giving them a real connection with the places that they visit beyond just taking photos. At the same time, the increasing competition in the cultural tourism market means that places have to distinguish themselves in increasingly creative ways. They have to try and underline their own distinctiveness and identity in an increasingly crowded marketplace. So demand and supply are really coming together in the search for new experiences. And very often these are based on intangible culture rather than the kind of tangible monuments, museums that we may be used to in cultural tourism. And intangible culture incorporates knowledge and skills which are embedded in local communities and which can be transferred between locals and visitors. And an important point about these kind of experiences is that they go one step beyond the experience economy concept of Pine and Gilmore into the realm of the next stage of value creation, which Pine and Gilmore identified as transformations, that is, experiences which actually change the people who undergo them. So in creative tourism, we argue people should be changed by the experiences that they are having. And that change is very often stimulated by personal contact between creative tourists and creative locals in the co-creation of experiences. And Crispin Raymond, my colleague who's also the co-originator of the creative tourism concept, likened this to Confucius's idea of how people learn. Confucius said, "I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand." So the idea of active involvement is very, very important in the creative process and in the development of creative tourism. Creative tourism can take on a wide variety of forms and can involve a wide range of creative resources. I mean, I see it not so much as a market niche, but more as a style of doing tourism, a way of being a tourist or being a temporary local. And so over the last decade, we've seen an enormous growth in these kind of experiences. We've already heard about the Thailand campaign, which has been very, very successful. But there are numerous examples from places like New Zealand, where Crispin Raymond started the first creative tourism program, in Austria, in Spain, which we'll hear a bit more about from Caroline in a minute, and of course from Santa Fe, and many other places. And I think we also had a question from Gunyan about the extent to which creative tourism involves marketing creatively. And I think the Tourism Authority of Thailand campaign, Discover the Other You, which was incredibly successful, is a very creative example of how to market creative tourism. I think the question that we're now increasingly coming up against is, well, what are creative tourists actually doing? Who are these people? What impact are they having on the destination? What are the best kind of models of creative tourism that are developing? And this is the question also that we had from Elena in Austria, which related to the research. She asked whether there had been any research carried out in recent years on the creative tourism market. I'm happy to say that there is now a special issue of the Journal of Tourism Consumption and Practice now being published. I don't think it's online yet, but it will be in the next couple of days, presenting papers which were given at the Barcelona conference on creative tourism. And these present research studies of different creative tourism programs from across the world, including, of course, Barcelona. So Caroline has an article in the journal as well. So maybe I should hand over to Caroline now to talk a bit more about what's been happening in Barcelona.
Okay, Greg, thank you. And in introducing Caroline, I at least want to say that Caroline, welcome. We're glad you're here. And Caroline is Caroline Couret of Barcelona, and she is the director of Barcelona Creative Tourism. And Barcelona, I think all of us who have been involved with you over the years recognize that Barcelona was really one of the first cities that took creative tourism very seriously. And I think you've taken such a unique approach in terms of the marketing of locations. So I hope you'll highlight that for us. So welcome. We're glad you could join us.
Well, thank you all. Good morning. And first I would like to thank you, Rebecca, and all the organization committee for inviting me to take part in this webinar. I'm very glad to be here today to go on this converse that was started in 2008 in Santa Fe for the conference at which to take part. And to see a little bit the evolution, which is, I think, a positive evolution of this adventure of creative tourism. Well, from our hand, this adventure officially started in 2005 in Barcelona when we created the Barcelona Creative Tourism Platform. But we didn't wake up in a morning thinking, well, today is the D-Day, we're gonna create the Creative Tourism Platform, because this came from a long story that started we could say, about 30 years ago in Barcelona, as our foundation, FUSIC, which is a cultural foundation, had been running cultural projects with all these participative components. That means we already organized a festival in which the participation of amateurs groups were very important, that came to Barcelona to make a concert or to realize an artistic activity. And that led that every time more and more artistic groups from abroad ask us to help them with their artistic projects in Barcelona. One wanted to perform in a great venue in Barcelona, and so with the distance they couldn't have access to the great content or contacts or information. So we help them to have this kind of information and specified services. And we saw that there was not an accident, but it was getting a consolidated trend within the tourism in the city, that people wanted not only to visit the cultural sites, but also to take part and to realize their artistic activity. So at the same time, we discovered the works of Greg Richards and Crispin Raymond about creative tourism. And of course, we had the solution. That was creative tourism. So that's why we created this platform, the Barcelona Creative Tourism, to give services, information, and contact very specific for this kind of requests. And our services works through a website in which people can find directly the information, be they to make an artistic workshop, a cooking class, or dance classes. And then there is another level, which is for people willing to make a more complicated, sophisticated project that require our involvement in terms of tailor-made services. And so that's the experience in Barcelona. So it started in 2005, and we could see that this kind of proposals were more and more a success in the city.
So tell us, Caroline, a little more about the kinds of people who have called you and the kinds of services or the kind of artistic creations that they've made in collaboration with you.
Yeah, of course. At the beginning, we could notice that there were above all people that already realized an artistic activity in the city or in the country, like dancers or choirs, or people that were that like to make some ceramics, for instance, that wanted to seize the opportunity of their holidays to make their art and at the same time to discover another destination. But along the last years, we could see that our public, our audience in Barcelona, that asked them to help them for their creative holidays, are more and more what we could say conventional tourists that are interested in including a participative activity within their stay, the classical stay and the cultural tour of the city. So they're there for half a day or some hours, but they do need to have a participative activity to feel, well, unique, to have the feeling that they are living a unique experience.
Well, one of the nitty-gritty questions that I hear when I talk about this around the world is people want to know, do we charge for it? And, you know, and what is the range of what one charges for a creative tourism experience? I know I'm throwing that curve to you. We haven't talked about that. Would you give us an idea on how Barcelona includes in their marketing plan fees for creative tourism for the visitor or the artist?
Yeah. How much do you charge?
Well, it depends. There is a very wide range, and for this reason, it's difficult to draw a profile of the creative tourist, because on the first level, the people that directly organize their creative activities through the website, they have a directory, and so the range of prices can be from 20 or 30 euros to take part in a cooking class, for instance. And then, of course, if they ask us to organize concerts or to make communication for a specific event, so it depends. It's very on-demand services.
Okay, and so there is a range. And I guess a good takeaway point, though, for people who are interested in pursuing this is that tourists, as well as what I would call professional artists who are interested in exchanges, are willing to pay for this, that it is something that can be supported economically, and it doesn't all belong on a city to, you know, provide this service.
Yeah, what we have observed is that all these creative tourists give the priority within their budget to the creative content. That means they certainly prefer to have lunch in a lower place, but they do prioritize to have a good service and a good, very interesting activity. So that's a little bit our reason to be here, to act as intermediary and to try to offer them very good products, I can say, not products, but activities.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, as we continue later in the conversation, I'm sure there are going to be more questions for both of you. Let's move now to Santa Fe. And as a link back to what we're talking about now, clearly one of the challenges that we discussed at the conference and what we've learned over time together is that how do you go about connecting the tourist with the artist? And much of our work in Santa Fe has focused on that issue since we had the conference in 2008. So now it's my pleasure to turn to Sabrina Pratt, who is the director of our Arts Commission, and she can give a context to you all for how we've addressed that in Santa Fe. Sabrina.
Thank you. So as you know, Rebecca, our economy in Santa Fe really is based on tourism as well as state government. So tourism is one of the primary economic drivers, and the arts are a big piece of that. Santa Fe is really fortunate to be very full of arts activities, not only artists working in their studios, but people who are producing the performing arts, and so we have big institutions like the Santa Fe Opera, Santa Fe Chamber Music Festival, all kinds of performing groups. And we have many artists, and in fact, there was a study by the National Endowment for the Arts, which is the U.S.'s federal agency, of the number of artists in metropolitan areas. And Santa Fe has so many artists, in spite of our being a town of only 85,000 people, that we are, in terms of the percent of artists in the working workforce, only second to San Francisco. So if you think about that in the U.S., Santa Fe has a very unique position to be a small town with so many artists working here and so much happening in terms of creativity. So for years, since the early last century, we've been a tourism place, a place that draws people here because they're interested in the arts. And we've also drawn lots of artists because it's such a great creative environment with the natural environment that we have, the incredible, beautiful light, and then historic traditions that go back to the Native Americans as well as the Hispanic, the Spanish who came and settled Santa Fe.
But when you say that prior to our involvement with creative tourism and the conference, not to take too much of a credit for a paradigm shift, many of our artists were not doing courses or providing hands-on experiences. That evolution has indeed occurred here.
Right.
I'd like you to talk about that.
It was really interesting when we got ready for the conference and we had a survey done of what was happening in Santa Fe to figure out what was going on. So we had the assistance of an organization called Creative Santa Fe to do this survey, and they determined that there were about 50 artists and other kinds of organizations doing creative tourism activities. And that put us in the position to build. And so after the conference, we started in a very organic way building a creative tourism industry here in Santa Fe. And it's been, I think, really fruitful because it's a great opportunity for local artists to add something into their portfolio of what they do to make a living. And so, whereas before they might have been selling their art and teaching in the schools, now they have this chance to hook up with tourists and to bring them into their studios and to tag onto this trend of tourists wanting a more authentic experience and hands-on interactive opportunity. And of course, it has this great spin-off effect of the tourist really getting to understand our community, its historic artistic traditions, and it gives the artists a chance to convey the value of what they do, because once you try doing something, you understand that it's a little harder than it looks maybe, and it maybe also inspires the tourist to buy some art and take it home as a souvenir. And so we're having a really great new industry sort of flowering since we did this 2008 conference and figured out more about what creative tourism is.
We're going to, I think maybe we'll shift to Brent. I'm going to merge both of you because I think it's easier to flow it that way, because I'm thinking immediately of how we went about linking the tourist to the artist through the marketing of hotels. So I'm going to jump over and introduce Brent Hannafel, who has helped create our website and our social media marketing, and switch the order a little bit and have you talk about that aspect of building the infrastructure in Santa Fe, particularly DIY kind of events with the hotels.
Sure. So after the 2008 conference, when there was around 30 to 40 artists listed on the workshop on the website Santa Fe Creative Tourism, we've now built that listing to over 175 artists with over 300 different choices that people can choose from when they come to Santa Fe. One of the projects that we've done this year is called DIY Santa Fe, which you can find information at DIYSantaFe.com. Included participation with local hotel Inn and Spa Loreto. This included 30 days of artist workshops, prices ranging from $39 for a 3-hour fiber arts class up to a 5-day photography workshop. I think that was around $500 to $600. Through that, with the participation with the hotels, 22,000 was booked in workshops, rooms, and sold work. One glass artist sold a piece for $6,000. So building those connections with the local hospitality industry has been fruitful for the website and artists.
Another aspect of building an infrastructure that we found very effective is to build on what Becky Anderson, I think Caroline and Greg will remember her from our conference. She was from Appalachia, and she worked on the, what's the name of the trail? The
Handmade in America.
Handmade in America Trail. And Becky advised all of us at the conference that a key issue is to, quote, get artists ready for receiving visitors. I think that's what she called that. So, Brent, would you describe in some detail the kinds of workshops and what we've done in Santa Fe to help artists get ready to, quote, receive visitors?
Sure. So the second component of creative tourism in Santa Fe is our business series classes, and also one-on-one consultations. These classes have taken place during the fall of 2011 and the spring of 2012. They were 10 weeks long. They involved different classes. Some of the curriculum we have actually divided